Okay, perfect. All right, we're talking the game of the century, 2015 DU versus the better team objectively, Notre Dame. I'm Nick Ossello. We have Wes Berg, Sergio Perkovic, and Mike Riis. Wes and Sergio and myself were integral parts of the game, and Mike Riis is also here. And what I'm curious about is we played earlier that year, and you guys won by one in Denver. What was the freak out level from Tierney and Brown heading into the game?
For the semis?
Yeah.
You know what? It's surprisingly a little bit more calm. Coach T usually does all his freakouts at the beginning of the year, like when we have our mid-season meltdown and lose to Ohio State or something like that. That's when you really get the good stuff from Coach T. Final four, he's usually a bit calmer. I think he chirping Mike a little bit. He can elaborate a bit more on that before the game, but he's in a pretty good spot before games like that.
Yeah, and also we hadn't really lost to you guys in a while, so it was kind of like, all right, like we should win this, and we were pretty confident. And Nick, you and I spoke about this too. Like that championship weekend run was like literally made for us to win. We went from a home game to a quarterfinal at Mile High Stadium, so we didn't travel at all. And then it's like, all right, fly out, one flight for us, which typically we're taking a million, but
Chartered flight, by the way.
yeah, charter, not a big deal. Uh, and yeah, like freak out wise, Coach T is so calm and like, I mean, he came up to me before the game and I did not play well pretty much that entire season except for those two games. Uh, and he comes up to me before the game and he's like, I'm stretching. He's just hey, hey, Mike, are you gonna suck again today? Like you did last week. And I'm like, I'm going to try my best not to. So I did great for 3 quarters until Sergio started to play.
That's like kind of polar opposite because anytime we were especially the number one seed or ranked number one, we wouldn't really read the articles. I mean, we'd see them, but Coach Corrigan would be like, "You guys think you're the number one seed? You guys think you guys are hot shit? Well, we're gonna run you over the course of this entire week in practice." And I remember we beat Albany in Denver. We were gassed. It was graduation week. It was uh, dry for most of the team. Um, and it just kind of like, white knuckle. I was pumped to see Notre Dame get over the hump because he seems way more relaxed this year. Serge, what do you remember of Corrigan and Byrne heading into the game?
Yeah, I mean, heading into the game, they definitely were very serious and nervous a little bit. We hadn't beaten Denver in a while, as Mike and Wes alluded to. And I think, we always had this 1 goal game against them. And we just, it'd been a few games since we beat them. And actually, my whole career, we never beat Denver, unfortunately, which is kind of wild. But I think, the coaches know that for sure. And I think they, know that Tierney's a good coach. So I think they were nervous and also excited. And again, I think we may have worked on what we're, it's always, Trevor, when Trevor's a face-off guy, it's kind of difficult to overcome a lot of odds. But I think they had a decent strategy going into the game to try to muck it up and win a couple. But they were definitely, I think, on edge a little bit, but, confident as well.
So that's the part that's like the biggest bullshit factor to me. I don't know if you've like watched the game start to finish. It's a snooze fest. It's 3-minute Canadian possessions where
Especially
you
the
take
first
a
half.
shot. The first half was unbelievable. Like it's difficult to watch. And now that we have the shot clock, I want to know how intentional it was when you guys have a bunch of Canadians that can pretend to shoot and pick corners, and then all of a sudden you miss by 5 feet to get the, oh yeah, they took a shot. Don't put on that timer. Wes, how greasy of a game plan was that? The whole
I mean, I,
season.
I don't know what the complaint is about the Canadians because we're usually just shoot first, ask questions later, and check the ball in the middle. So the game plan comes from the coaching staff. If you think I want to shoot the ball and miss the net or not jam the ball in the middle, you're talking to the wrong guy. I think I don't know. I think we that whole couple of games when we'd play you guys, we kind of pulled what Ohio State would always do to us, where they would just lull you to sleep and your attack wouldn't get the ball forever. And finally, you're like, all right, I'm going to the net. And then you either score, Trevor win the face off, so you wouldn't get the ball again, and you just never got in a rhythm. So I don't know. It wasn't really intentional. It's kind of like even in 2014, if we beat the Americans at their own game, kind of doing that, and everybody was thinking it was classic Canadian, just huck it, chuck it, football, sending up prayers and going to the net. But The Canadians can learn some stuff too. We learned how to play the field game, and I agree with you. It was that first half was about as boring as it gets. I don't think I ever liked playing that way, but I'd much rather play a run and gun game and enjoy it and have a lot more fun. But winning is the only thing that really matters. So I think we bought in a little bit with what was working.
Well, and the
just
really
slowly
frustrating
while
part
just
is like going into it. It's like, okay, we're not we're not going to win a face-off. I'm going to try and hurt Baptiste, and this was before he was
Dude.
like looser on the field. Like I would say the meanest things I could think of, he would beat me on the face-off, and as we were like running off, or I probably stayed. He got off. I was more than just a face-off guy. I'd be saying the meanest stuff I could think of, and he just wouldn't respond to it at all. And it was the most frustrating thing. And compound that with like, okay, if we just limit it to 6-on-6 as much as we can, we're confident. And the really big bummer of this entire game to me was that you were able to manufacture goals outside of 6-on-6. Mike,
Yeah, me just just going rogue. The last
did you
five,
have the green light on that?
God,
dude.
no, he looked me up on the crease.
Like,
I was
are
wide
you
open.
kidding? My
Looking for a
like,
rebound right away.
yeah. When I got recruited and when I was in high school, I scored probably 1 million goals as an LSM in San Diego, and then you get to Denver and Coach T just goes, "Don't even look at that goal." Like, just
He scored
and
his first goal on our own net.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he was dash one for most of his career, and then
dude, dash one, own goal.
Yeah, starts turning it around. He was probably not in your guys' scout.
Yeah, no, dude. There's no way I was in the scout. But yeah, my first goal was against Lehigh on our own net. I scored on Jamie Faust.
It's all far down. Just went
It was
far Mexico.
it was sick. Yeah, that was unbelievable. But dude, back to the face-offs what you're talking about with Trev. Like playing against you guys on those face-offs was brutal because for us, we loved when people would like try to face off against Trevor because we're like, all right, he's gonna win. I literally would just be at the end of the wing. He would throw it between his legs into my stick I didn't have to move. It was insane. I'm like, all right, this is the easiest ground ball ever. And then we play against you guys. Eppel's on the wing. Sexton's on the wing. And then you're facing off. Like all three guys way more athletic than our three guys. And if the ground ball does not go smooth in the slightest way, it's like, all right, I'm getting hacked by Garrett Eppel, which is maybe the scariest thing in the world. So it was so brutal handling that. And I thought you guys did good, right? Or did we dominate you?
It's one of those where it's like you probably ended up winning 75, but it was much closer to 50 out of like, either turnovers. And then our goal was like, okay, obviously don't give anything up, but like make them win, obviously 50-50, do your best to do that, whatever. But just make them win it back, and then we'll just ride our, as hard as we can because we had Matt, who was, the Tasmanian devil back there. And
but he was on one leg.
You were one of the first teams to do okay, we're going to have LaPlante shoot it at the net, miss by 100 yards, and just have an attackman back it up. And that kind of like killed us. We didn't really know what to do because we were like, well, we're in our ride that worked against Albany the year before has been a saving grace for us. And then you guys are just chucking it right into a end line possession starting from X. So that was the one game where we had been down a number of times over over my career, over Sergio's career, but whether it was Albany, whether it was Albany again, whoever it was, we'd just be like, okay, we're fine. Like we'll be able to come in and like work our way back. And so when we were trying to put together a game plan to make a comeback against you, we're like, well, I don't even really know what to do. We're never going to have the ball. If they have the ball, it's going to be 20 minutes. We're going to take a nap, have a sandwich, and then by that time they may have taken a shot on net. But let's just skip all the boring aspects of the game. Mike, you didn't have the green light, but you went and scored anyways. Let's just get right to the fourth quarter.
Oh my God.
How much were you listening to Coach Corrigan that entire fourth quarter?
I don't think I heard one single word that he said. Actually, but it's
Let's
fun.
go.
No, I mean, at that point, I was just like blacking out a little bit. But I remember at halftime, speaking of how boring the first half was, I like never check my phone at halftime, but it was the most boring game of all time. I look at my phone. The one text I have is from like my mom, and I forgot to get them the tickets. They like drove all the way to Philly, and like they're they're like $80 a ticket, and like a lot of my family went, and I forgot to submit like the player tickets. And I remember being like, wow, they're like watching the most boring game. They drove to Philly, how many hours, and they had to pay for like the $80. It's like not that cheap, like $80 a ticket that I could have just got them for free. Like, that like pisses my parents off that I could have just got them free tickets. So I was like, like we need to make the second half a little more interesting, so they get their money's worth at least.
Oh my god, dude.
There's nothing worse than forgetting to submit the comp tickets. I almost did that for the 2014 comeback against Albany, and it was sold out. And my parents had to like get a different person's comp tickets whose parents like couldn't end
Jump
up
the fence.
Dude, yeah, jump the fence. That's the worst text that you could have gotten. So that's really good to know that was the motivation. And, dude, that was the funniest part during that run is we would huddle up and it's like, okay, Sergio's getting hot. And similar to you, like Corrigan would drop a play and you and I would just be looking at each other. And I think it was like Doyle and Cav, we'd kind of be off to the side, like looking at each other like, okay, sick play. Let's just go out and give the ball to the Italians. Like, get it to Sergio. Somebody set a pick for him and, like, go and shoot. My question is now for Mike.
Here we go.
You didn't think to maybe shut him off? You didn't think to defend him? I mean, what were you guys doing?
Dude, so, like, the first half, it was like this, like, almost like a rope-a-dope because you're, like, the first half, like, I think – like you maybe had like a half a shot, like, or a shot in the game. So it was like, all right, like, shit, what's going on? Like our defense was always like, all right, if we stop, sorry, Nick, this might hurt, but if we stop Serge and if we stop Cav, like we will win the game. No, there was none of that, unfortunately. And we're like all confident in the first half. I just scored. I'm like, all right, like, I had my guy. We're done here. Like, I just scored a goal. I sullied in Glaze's face, which was hysterical. And then now we're, like, who I know. And I just, like, let's go. Like, right in his face, screaming. He's like, dude, Mike, relax. And anyways, we go to that, like, we start playing the fourth, and this guy starts going off. And I'm like, at this point, we're, like, pretty tired. And we're like, all right, like, we should probably start sliding to this guy early. Didn't matter. Didn't help. And like for years, I've been just telling myself until I just rewatched these clips and Inside Lacrosse posted them. I was just like, yeah, he just kept switching off of me. Like he kept switching off of me. He did not keep switching off of me.
There was one where
just ran by me like multiple times. Like, oh my god, then Nick, your big ass got in the way on a pick, and I was like, oh, this is brutal. But dude, as that was all going on, and LaPlante was like making all these saves, and yeah, this guy shoots at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but LaPlante's not making saves. We're like, oh, we are in trouble right now. But it was all like just a master plan to set up Berg to be the hero. Like at the end of the day, if there was no Serge, there's no Wes. So
you guys were just trying to make it more exciting for yourselves as well.
Exactly, bro. Exactly. It was a boring game, like we said. Let's just we're thinking of the fans at home, right? We want to grow the game, and that's how you grow the game. You let a guy score 6 goals.
Second half, they had all those Maryland fans in there. The bottom ball was sold out. We're like, all right, let's make this an interesting.
Give them a show.
Give them a show.
Nick, a funny to start the streak. This is actually kind of funny. Is again, I don't think I shot in the first half, but I had a couple of shots in the second half, in the fourth, before I scored my first goal. And I remember we had like a stoppage or like a timeout, and then my first goal was on man up. And Coach Carwick at the time, our assistant coach, came up to me and he's like, you got it, like. Just shoot it low this next time. I guarantee it goes in. Something like that.
Yeah.
I catch it on that first one. No idea where I shot it. I actually, after I scored, I had no idea where it went. And like he starts like laughing to me as I come to the sideline because I couldn't have shot it any higher than I shot it. Like I didn't even like aim low.
Shoot it low. Okay, coach.
Okay.
For sure. Gotcha.
I should have.
Stay on the bench.
Well, and the thing that worried me too is like the backbreakers as you're making a run. And like halfway through, like Serge is on fire. You're still getting every possession, but all of a sudden your offense decided to piss its pants every possession and just make like those stupid forced passes to the middle that even Canadians couldn't handle because our entire defense was collapsed on the inside. But there was a ground ball scrum in front of the crease. somebody must have committed a penalty on me because I would not miss an open ground ball like this. And the frustrating part was, I say it all the time, like when you're coaching little kids, it's like, make sure you have the ball before you start running. I was like so fired up that we were in the middle of a run that as I went to scoop the ball on the crease, didn't even feel the weight of it in my stick and was ready to like punt return it past everybody and like set the tone that like we're the more athletic team. Watch me run by everybody on DU's ride. Turns out I didn't have the ball, and Wes scored an around the world. So Wes, I mean, you're welcome for the assist on that.
Sick drop pass, though. It was. I was going to say that was one of the best apples, I think, of my career. It just happened to be from the other squad there.
Did you mean, okay, and yeah, it was sick around the world, but it was a high bouncer, which negates a lot of it. Was that on purpose?
No, I was going 5-hole either way because I was thinking the grass was going to be a little dead like it was in the first half where it was kind of wet still, and then it got hot and dried out and almost bounced right over the net. I thought it was just going to die and roll in the middle, and it ended up, bouncing and going crossbar down. So it looked even prettier than I meant it to be.
And in the middle of that run, like back and forth and everything, every single sideline, it was like we're huddling up and it's like me, Serge, Cav, Doyle, a couple guys looking at each other going, okay, let's just do this. What was Tierney doing during that run where they were like, hey, there's kind of one player doing the entire comeback for Notre Dame? You want to stop him, fellas?
Probably yelling at the refs.
Parts of that, yeah. One of the best parts of that is before that, I think, when before you gave me that sweet pass for the reverse behind the back, I think Pacer or somebody kind of jammed it in, and then that's how I wasn't really that open, and I don't know if it hit a stick or like handcuffed me and just popped into the middle of the field, but I guess he was on his knees, smashing his hands on the ground and ripping grass out, and he didn't even see a score after. He was like still just screaming at Pacer or Trevor, whoever threw it in, and just ripping them. So he didn't even see a score and go up by that point. But I wasn't in the defensive huddles. I can imagine Mike was getting some Coach T magic taught to him here in the middle of the the Sergio run.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I don't even remember what he said. It probably wasn't good. I used to kind of just block it out anyways.
Can't repeat it on there.
that was kind of the move. But he was, oh man, he's so funny. Like when he's fired up and mad, like you mess something up, whatever, he's constantly ripping grass out of like where he's standing. He's just like a freaking lawnmower, like just cranking the grass out, firing it everywhere. Like I'm surprised he doesn't have like a giant hole at his feet by the end of every game. Oh, it's unbelievable.
Well, and that's something funny that like I try to explain to people sometimes. It's like, yeah, Corrigan must have drawn up some great plays for Sergio, and you play for so long. Like your preseason is in January. You played together every day for months now. You know exactly everything. So when he's yelling at you and like doing everything, and this is just across the board. If you ever play at an elite level, it's just kind of funny to be like, all right, cool, sounds good. Yeah. We kind of know what we're going to do here, and that's just get it to Serge. But did you guys have a scouting report for that game, and did Christian Thomas read it, or just no?
Bro, dude.
He guarded you on that dodge, Nick?
Yeah.
You're a lefty.
The only move that I have my entire college career.
That was, dude, when that happened, it was like I was inside. I had to slide. And I'm not expecting to slide at all because, like, the angle he took, too, was like, all right, there's no way he's getting to his right. And just, like, classic me underestimating Nick Ossello, which I should never do. And I'm sitting there in the middle, and all of a sudden he gets to his right, and I have to slide. I'm like, well, this is a goal. Like, we just blew that. Perfect. And run up, scores. And it was one of those, like, once again, like, I'm back to, like, all right, like, I think we're making this out alive. Like, we're going to make this out alive. And then Nick scores the game-tying goal, and you're like, oh, no, we got to keep going. Shit. And then, I mean, and maybe you're getting to this, but, dude, Trev lost that face-off in overtime.
Yeah.
Well, and credit to Corrigan on that play call, Nick, though, for having the faith in you and knowing Mike wasn't going to slide.
You think Corey
he drew it up
my number?
perfectly.
You think he drew my number at
He
the
drew
end?
your number. He said we want the hard right to right from Nick, and we'll see where it goes.
Here's what he actually said. They drew a bee-sting pick at X for Connor Doyle and Matt Kavanaugh so that you could have a seal pick from Will Corrigan to have that right-handed step down.
As soon as you beat him that cleanly, though, I didn't even go for that righty step down. I just hit the ground because I was like, Nick shooting this.
Yeah, and when, you didn't just get out of the way. You hit the deck. It was artillery fire. I
was like, this ball's not hitting me. It's going right in the net.
Oh, man. But, Mike, your point, he lost that opening faceoff, and I would have bet everything that I had, which was about $8, that's when we were going to win the game. We had all the momentum, everything. And what I loved about Corrigan in that sense was he was like, okay, now it's time for the playmakers to just go make a play. And was it Squires that threw the greatest?
No. Squires never won a championship. It was this kid, Carson Cannon, out of Minnesota. He started every year as a freshman. He was in our class, and he hated lacrosse. It was the best. He was just a really smart guy, and he's just God, he was an old man. And I don't think he threw a single check in his entire career until that one check. And I remember I was right there. He just throws a little slash, and Cav was he playing on a really bad leg too?
Yeah, he had to get hip surgery after.
Yeah, it was brutal, and just the luckiest check. It was one of those random slaps. He throws it, and Cav puts his stick right in front, pops right out, and I was right there. I was appalled. I was like, "There's no way this guy." That was his first cause turnover of his entire career, and he started 4 years. Picked the ball up, and I'm like, "Oh my god, we might win. We just have if we clear this, we might win it." And we almost didn't clear it.
Well, and the frustrating part defensively too was, Wes scored the winning goal. Zach Miller was the best player anybody had ever seen up until that time. And normally, when you're playing big boy ball, ACC ball, with good athletes, handsome guys, good academics, that's something that you guys don't know anything about, is you're used to just these 6'2" middies that are getting a full head of steam and trying to get one direction. And then we had Nick Kashansky, who was a 6'4" freshman that was built to stop power, guarding Zach Miller, who threw 50 dodges in the span of a phone booth over 3 seconds, blendered Kashansky, and then it was pass. And I thought we actually did a decent job recovering. Wes, you kind of took a shot with pressure coming out on you. That was kind of a ballsy shot.
Yeah, not thinking too much at the end there. I think I was like, "That's tired. I'm getting tired here. We gotta end this madness." I couldn't. Yeah, I was thinking the whole time too. When you had the ball, I had a bad feeling. I looked at Connor and I was like, "Just be ready for overtime here, just in case. Get your mind right for this." And then, sure enough, you guys score, and I'm like, "Oh, well, at least Trev will get the ball back here, and we'll get the face off, and we'll get a chance to shoot." So I was once Cars made that check there, I was like, all right, we gotta end this madness, and I was just shooting through a screen. I was shooting that ball no matter what.
Already predetermined it was being fired.
But Millsy started that whole rotation too, because you said, it was so difficult. It's so difficult to cover a guy like that, especially when, you said, you're used to the one-dimensional types in the ACC. Where you get Millsy going back and forth. The slide guy's like, what do I do? Finally flies up. Yeah.
They don't have the silky mitts like Millsy and those fast dancing feet like him and Pace are there. They're not, we're not raw power. We're more elegance.
Yeah, that's cute. And Mike, to your point, that was the most frustrating part. Is he could have gone either way with it. So the slide guy had to freeze and see which way he was going to decide to beat his defender. And it was I'm either sprinting to the alley or sprinting up top because I have no clue. Oh, it turns out he passed it and we're late on the recovery. And a funny story about that is, Wes, I know I've told you this, but my dad hated you for a full 2 years after that. And Shane Doss was the goalie then, and he was a good goalie. And my dad truly didn't understand the concept of a deceptive shot. Like he thought Sergio's shot was the best because it was going 110 miles an hour. And he's like, how did that even go in? Like Doss needed to save that. That Berg guy, he's not even good. I hate this. And it took me until playing with US on the Outlaws to where I saw you bury 500 of those in a row on even better goalies. And I'm like, oh, hey, Dad, maybe we shouldn't hate this or blame the goalie or do anything. Maybe it's just a good quality deceptive shot. And, you know, I told my dad the story of when we almost got in a fight my first game after we got traded, and he's loved you ever since. So shout out Steve Ossello for forgiving Berg for ending my college career. But you actually didn't. I mean, I was very sad, but, you know, I knew I had the quarterback position locked up that upcoming fall. So
That's right. I'm glad Steve gave me a second chance. But, you know, we knew you were coming back to play football or hockey or track and field with all those athletic tools you got anyway. So I didn't feel too bad about ending your career.
Good. Well, thanks. And for the record, everybody on that field knew that was the national championship.
Oh,
We
yeah.
were like, who's going to beat the absolute shit out of Maryland? Who did Maryland even play? Do you remember?
Hopkins.
Yeah. I mean, bye week in the bye week on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. I was like, can we just run the clock? Like, we want to go drink in the parking lot. Like, this is boring. That's how we felt during Maryland. It was like, this is kind of boring too.
Well, Serge, what did you do after we lost in Philly?
A lot of my family was in town, so I got dinner and drinks with them, moped around a little bit, and then I got in bed before you because I remember we were roommates, and you and Steve got back at like 3-4 in the morning, and I was awake hanging out with you guys in the room together. So
I was so pissed. And all the Notre Dame guys knew some guys at UPenn, and they were like, we're going to a UPenn party. And I was there for like 4 minutes, and I'm like, I'm either going to get in a fight, like I got to go. Dad, come and pick me up. Let's go have some beers in Philly. We got smoked. And we came back to the room like at 3 a.m. and started wrestling in the room, me and my dad. And like the wrestling match spills into Sergio's bed. It was like,
it was hilarious.
Blow off some steam. I was like trying to fight people in Philly, and my dad was like, okay, Nick, like, I get it, you're upset. Come fight me in the hotel room. And I was like, okay, perfect. And then we're just wrestling, and Serge is just sitting there like, what is happening right now? So that's how I dealt with the loss, Wes. That's what you did to me, Mike. That's what you did to me. So,
hey, we lost 2 Final Fours the year before. The 2 years before we lost in the Final Four, and we did the same thing. And the year before, we watched Serge, and how we didn't understand this after we watched Serge all hungover because we finally got back. And we were drinking our sorrows away after losing to Duke. And then when you guys played Duke the year before and the guy goes off again, or for the first time, and how we missed that. Like, hey, this guy can go off. And it's like, it's fine. Let's be slow to slide in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Spice things up a little bit.
Yeah, as we wrap it up here, I have this great vision of you guys like dogpiling after you win the Natty. Give us some words about what you did afterwards that we can overlay the audio on your celebration.
I do remember lighting off fireworks in a frat house that nobody seemed to be too worried about. I remember the joke with DU, they'd always be burning couches, and then sure enough, we almost burned a frat house down. But you know, they got good fire extinguishers there. That's probably not their first basement party with pyrotechnics.
Kevin, anything we're missing that we should touch on?
How about a preview for this weekend?
I think that it's going to go one of two ways. Maybe Nick's going to be disappointed. It's going to be another snooze fest, and Denver's going to kind of control that face-off, and that's kind of similar to what happened with Syracuse, and play the underdog card. Or if it's a shootout, I don't think that bodes as well in our favor with all the athletes Notre Dame's got on there. So it's going to be a good one.
Dude, I think Denver team defense wise, like, I don't know if Notre Dame's seen anything like that. Cause like, apparently you guys dropped us from your schedule.
Oh, give it a rest.
So you haven't really like seen a good team defense sliding in and out, covering the backside. It could be tough. But, also the Kavanaughs are so freaking good. It's like insane. And we could get blown out of the water.
I agree. I watched some of the Denver Cuse game last week, and I was impressed by their defense a little bit. They pack it in, they slide, they recover, but I just think Notre Dame has too many weapons, and I don't think we'll be outmatched at the faceoff X, and we definitely won't be outmatched in goal. So goalie and faceoffs in the Final Four. I mean, if you have those two, it's hard to beat somebody.
We're gonna kill you. Like I don't see a way in which we're not winning by 8 goals. We have the better face-off, better defense, better transition, better offense, better goaltending.
I was just gonna say the arrogance is what's gonna get
the arrogance, dude. The arrogance. I love it. It's classic Notre Dame.
2015. I'm going in with sky.
What a crumble it would be. We love being the underdogs, Nobody.
No, you don't. You love
it.
Top dogs and the clout. Give it a rest. You can drop that ass.
I don't care about myself at all. Like, come on. It's the team,
Team guy Mike.
Yeah, right. That was one thing that I'm going to be on site in Philly.
Yeah.
Berg, you coming with?
No, I won't, unfortunately, be on site in Philly, but I'll be watching here in Chicago. And hopefully it's a good game, so we'll see.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to have all the beers to myself. I can't even bring you three any. It's not, I'll make do. We'll find a way. We'll power through.